There we go. Well, again, then, just from my side, welcome and almost good evening. My name is Peter. I'm Peter Rousseau, owner and principal at Elroi Academy. And this is so exciting for me that we are having parents' evenings. This is the first year that we've done so. And I'll give a little bit of context on why that has become necessary for us to do, but it is really a great delight for me. So thank you so very much that you're participating. I hope you find this very, not just informative, but yeah, encouraging to see what we do, how we do things. And I recognize quite a number of names here of parents with which we've interacted so far. So even for you guys that are very familiar with how we do things, thank you for making the time. I want to be fairly brief, but there's about probably about 40-minute presentation that I want to give you, and I want to leave enough time so that we can just so that you have an opportunity to ask some questions. But for that, let me then immediately get started. As I said, my name is Peter, and Elroi Academy has been around for the last 11 years. So I want to just start by giving you a little bit. Let me just start maybe by giving you um, the agenda, what we're going to talk about. We're just going to do a short opening, mainly in which I just want to tell you who we are, how Elroi works, and then specifically what are the factors if you are doing online education for the first time, especially as parents and your children, what are the important factors for success, and what do we do to contribute to that, and what do we need from you to assist in that. And then just a few very important things that we do need to just bring across and make sure that you understand and know how that works and why that is important. And finally, some of you might be grade 12 parents, in which case it's necessary that we just give you some instructions for the grade 12 year, which is significantly different with a lot of admin. So those are basically the three main things that we're going to talk about, four main things. And at the end, I will give some time for you to ask questions. So let me then get started by just telling you a little bit about Elroi Academy by explaining what our name means. Our name means God sees. Elroi means God sees. It comes from a story in the Bible, Genesis 16, where a young slave girl, Hagar, finds herself pregnant. She was impregnated by her master and mistress, who wants to produce an heir for Abraham. So Abraham and Sarah, and in her pregnant state, she got quite emotional and started being arrogant towards her mistress, Sarah. Sarah complains to Abraham. Abraham says, "Well, she's your slave. Do with her what you want." And as a result, Sarah seems abusive, and Hagar runs away. And so she's there in the desert, fleeing, as most of us do when we find ourselves in difficult situations. We run away. And in that place, in her place of misery, destitution, doesn't know what's going to happen with her future. She's no one. She's got nothing. She's a slave girl. But there she encounters God. He appears to her in an angel, and he asks her, Hagar, where have you come from, and where are you going? And Hagar answers, her whole identity is wrapped up in her struggle. So she answers and she says, I'm running away from my mistress, Sarah. And he tells her, go back and submit yourself to them. So it doesn't change her situation. Everything is still the same. It's probably worse now that she goes back. But he does promise her that he's going to be with her. And here in this story, Hagar is completely released from her victim mentality, and she goes back and she knows God is with her. But before she goes back, she says these words. She says, I have seen the God that sees me. I have seen the God that sees me. And that's where she names God. She gives the name of God Elroi. And that is why that is a name that my mom, when I started the business 11 years ago, my mom suggested the name. And we never knew that it's going to have such a big impact for us, because it's become really what we want to stand for. We want to be like, the picture that comes to my mind is we want to be that angel that kids encounter when they feel like they've got nowhere to go. They don't know what to do with their lives, but they encounter this angel that sees them because God sees them. And that's what we try to embody. We don't do it perfectly, obviously, but we do attempt to do that. And I hope that you will have that encounter with us as well, as parents, as well as your children. And the main reason I'm telling you this is not as an encouraging message or as a nice story, or to sell anything to you. You're already clients. Main reason I'm telling you is so that you can keep us accountable, that we actually do that. And we don't just say that. So thank you for participating. Thank you for trusting us with really an important part of your child's future. And I do think you're going to find us people that really do care. We're not in this for the money, but we are very grateful that we get paid for doing something so meaningful. Now, that does mean that what Elroi does primarily is we offer a service. So I want to talk just about the two things that we mainly do. One component of what we do is we offer a service in the field of distance education, and that service is primarily support. Your Elroi's program is a self-study program. So your child is going to do this basically by themselves. In most cases, some of them are at tutor centers, but in most cases, students are doing this by themselves. They get a study guide with instructions for every week. But with that program of self-study, we want to give them all the support we possibly can. We have academic support through teachers that interact with them as often as is meaningful. We have administrative support in the form of Ditsepo. She's not here now, traveling on her way back home. So Ditsepo is our student support. And then we've got Johan, who is our administrative support. And so to just explain that a little bit, so Johan would deal with anything admin related to for example, the portal. If there's subjects missing on the portal, he's the one that deals with that. To register students for the matric final exam, anything administrative in that sense, technical on the portal and administrative in terms of the registration. And then Ditsepo is the one that makes sure that students are not overlooked, that they're seen, that they're helped. Now, this time of the year is extremely busy as we have new registrations, find new new registrations, learn to meet new students and new parents. So it's very difficult to do it thoroughly at this time of the year, but you'll find she's extremely conscious and caring for all of the students to make sure that none are overlooked and any concerns are addressed. Now, then obviously we can't do that the way that the teachers are then supposed to do that for their academic studies. And so on that side, we've got each of the subjects has a teacher, and the teacher would offer as much academic support as we can. And where we can, we want to improve. So that is the service component of what we offer, and we pride ourselves on really offering a good service. The next, though, is the product that we're offering. So in the end, you are doing a national senior certificate. Sorry, I just want to... So difficult not to look at yourself when you're on a... Just want to hide my video. We're offering a qualification. So this is the National Senior Certificate. So in the end, what we're offering you is a qualification, which means that there is a number of things. Some of you might be from a homeschooling background. Your children did homeschooling. And this is quite a jump between grade 9 and grade 10. And that is because up to grade 9 is called basic education. So for basic education, you actually don't even need to write assessments. You need to, the student needs to learn to read, do maths, and obviously assessment might form a part of that, just to make sure that basic education outcomes are met. But what makes that different in grade 10, 11, and 12 is that now it's a qualification. In other words, now the assessments are not necessarily just to make sure that the student has accomplished their basic skills, but that they've actually accomplished the requirements for the qualification. So now assessments become a very vital part of what we do and what we offer. So primarily we have services and we have assessments. These are the two very important structures in Elroi, and you'll find us taking both of those extremely seriously. And so it might come as a shock if you're a first-time grade 10 student coming from grade 9, where you might have had a much more leisurely approach to assessment, which is fine. My kids do homeschooling, and I don't think they've written a test in their life, and they are very competent. So tests aren't necessary at that level, but for the FET phase, it is definitely necessary. So that's why I do want to encourage you to understand our strict processes when it comes to assessments, and I'll give a little bit more insight into that. So that's who we are. Elroi, institution that wants to see our individuals as individuals, because God sees them and cares about where they come from and where they're going. What we do is we offer service, highest quality we can offer, as well as a product, the National Senior Certificate. Just to give some feedback, our students do incredibly well in the National Senior Certificate. We're still resolving some final matters for last year's grades, but the year before, we were one of Sakai's top 5 assessment online schools. Got a 77.7% average, not pass rate. That was our average. Our students did phenomenally well in 2022. We had a little bit weaker group last year, but nonetheless, our students do well, and on more than just one way. They do well in terms of the academic studies, but they're a little bit more balanced as well, because they have a life outside of these studies, and we don't always know about that. But that is the nice thing about doing online education. So that's who we are, how we work. The next thing I just want to quickly address is just some factors for success. So as I've said, we've done this for 11 years now. I have seen everything that doesn't work and all of the things that is a requirement for you to be successful with doing self-study. Now, let me just first encourage you. I was for making this decision, in that it was a good decision, regardless of how difficult it's going to be. I was a lecturer at Tux before I started Elroi, and one of the problems there was that when the students got to us, they got 80s for maths, for example. I was a maths calculus lecturer. They got 80s, for example, but they couldn't do maths at university level, because they were spoon-fed all throughout their school careers, taught to the test, did a lot of past papers, and as a result, they could do well in exams, but they didn't really understand the work. Now, that is the one key difference between someone that has done this type of approach, is every mark that they got on their own steam. Nothing is spoon-fed, and this is remarkable. This is really unusual. Most children do because they are spoon-fed at schools, and for many that is their best approach. But I really want to honor our students. They might not perform as well as they would have at school, but those marks are their own marks. They've worked for that, and it shows in their how well they do at university afterwards, because they've learned how to take responsibility for their studies. But that being said, what are the factors necessary for them to actually be successful and achieve the best marks, their own marks, so not inflated, their own marks, the best marks, and actually do well on more than one level, academically as well as mentally and socially? The 3 things that we identify is a consistent work ethic, communication, and support. Those are the 3 key things that a child is going to need doing this, or a student is going to need doing this online. So firstly, that consistent work ethic. So one of the major difficulties is that all of a sudden you are leaving this child to make their own decisions for how they are going to spend their day, their week, their time. Many of you are full-time working. You are trusting your kids at home to do the work. And in terms of that, if many find themselves with that freedom, as I did in my first year at university, not knowing how to plan myself, and so I would neglect doing any work until crunch time when it comes to assessments, and that is obviously not a way that you're going to be successful. So a consistent work ethic from the beginning to start, and consistently keep up with your work, that is vital for this. especially because that has a mental impact. If certain times during the year you are so stressed because you have to catch up a lot of work, obviously that is a recipe for giving up. Now, what we do on our end to help with that consistent work ethic is, one, is we have a teacher that is constantly communicating what the work is at this time. So that's the best. One of the best things we can do from our side is just to be there and remind the student, listen, this is where you should be at the work. This is what you should be doing. So that's the one thing we attempt to do. Wow. Second thing is that study guide. So every year we improve our study guide. I'll emphasize that a little bit in terms of importance. The most important document that your child should have, and that if you've not confirmed with them yet, is that they get that study guide. Every subject has a study guide. It is a comprehensive document that tells you basically everything about the subject, except necessarily the content. So it's not a textbook, but it is a study guide. It tells you, gives you an overview for what you're going to do in the year. It gives you your assessment program with the assessment. It explains those assessments for you. What is an investigation, for example, or a project? It then has a work schedule that tells you weekly what the work is that you should be doing, and often in that context, it also explains this is the topics that you should be focusing on. This is the way in which these questions are going to be assessed. And so that document is really just a helpful companion, but that is also the way in which we try to show you that there should be a consistent, regular work ethic within the school and learning program. Now, that is from our side what we try to do to encourage that consistent work ethic. So please make sure that your child is going on weekly to see the announcement, what the teacher is saying, where we should be, and that they have that study guide with its work schedules available to know what to do. Then a second very crucial thing, and I am going to give you time just at the end to ask some questions. So please make a note if you have any questions, just to ask it at the end. The reason why I'm giving it till the end, because maybe I might just answer your question as I unpack some of these things as well. So let's just first see if I don't maybe answer any questions, but you're welcome to put some questions in the chat. Let me just make sure. Okay. I don't see anything there yet. Okay, so the next thing is important thing is the communication. Now, this is really something that I think all of us can acknowledge is vital for anything to succeed in any relationship to be healthy, is communication. And here's one of the big challenges in online education. You know, when you teach at school level, you know exactly when the kids don't understand. Those blank stares, those frowns, you know when you're talking to someone and they don't really get what you're saying. You can see it in their body language. We don't have that privilege. And so there is a key, I think they say something like 80% of communication is body language. We don't have that. So we have to make an extra attempt to communicate. Now, the way in which we do that, as I've already explained, the teachers send weekly communication with the learners. But if they don't have interaction with the teachers, we won't know that they don't understand or they don't. So you could say, yes, but can't you pick it up in the test? Yes, we can pick it up in the test, but the test is at the end of the term. The test is a formal assessment to see how well they understood the work. It's not a diagnostic tool to assess where the problem is, unfortunately. If a student is struggling, this is really where you need to encourage your children to communicate. If they have questions, communicate to the teachers. Our teachers are so eager to assist. They're stunning people, and you'll find them very helpful, but you need to communicate with them. Now, in terms of that communication tools, I just want to share my screen with you to show you how that is primarily done. So all of our or the primary way in which we interact with the students is obviously through the portal. We discourage the use of emails, at least with the teachers, and I'll explain that just now. But obviously, if you have an administrative problem or an maybe a personal problem where you need to speak to us, to someone in the office, you're more than welcome to send an email. And I'll maybe just make sure that we have a proper document in which we can send to to you as parents, so that you know who to contact concerning what problems. For example, we've got Johan for admin, Seppo for student support, and Tanya for the accounts. But when it comes to communicating with the teachers, we do not allow the students to make use of email. And the main reason for that, there's two big reasons. One is it's very difficult, as your students will also see, it's very difficult to keep track of email correspondence, because you just have one inbox and everything just goes down. Like, I find it so difficult. I'm not very good at organizing it. So that is one reason. The other reason is for the safety of both the teachers and the learners. We don't have access to the teacher's email. So if you tell me that a teacher is being rude, you can maybe forward me the email, but I can't actually access a teacher's email to see what has been the communication. So you can be falsely accusing a teacher, and I have no means of actually verifying of what you're saying. So one of the things is just to protect, because you're interacting online, to protect our students, we ask that you please make use of the portal. Now, uh, when we use the portal, we have access to those communications. So it's happened so often that students tell me, I've asked my teacher a question, I've never heard back from her. And obviously, sometimes when students don't do something, or they've neglected to do something, we all do it. We tend to shift blame, and often the teacher gets blamed, and then I can go and look, did the student send the teacher a message? Was there no response, etc.? Now that I can do by using the system. Now the messaging system is here at the top. You can, if you wanted to send me a message, you'll type my name, and you can find me. So if you know your teacher's name, let's say uh, this is our business studies teacher, Giovanna Blight. You can tick on her name and you can send her a message directly. Now, here's just a caution: we do not, we ask that students not use this messaging system unless it's personal or private. So what I mean by that is, if you're going to ask a question that would be appropriate to ask in the bigger class setting, then don't ask it in person, because if the teacher has to answer every student's question that is related to a subject in a whole, they'll be answering the same questions over and over in private. So we don't answer. If a question is about a subject, we tell the student, please ask this on the Q&A. We don't answer those questions here in this chat. And we ask them, please ask it on the Q&A. So the Q&A is a public forum. There is a Q&A for the support course, which is a course on, all of the students are on that course. And that is where, now it gets a little bit overwhelming because a lot of people ask questions, especially in the beginning of the year. So please bear with us and with each other, as there's a lot of questions coming through. But the Q&A is where you can ask a general question that goes out to everyone. And one of the ways in which we want to support these students is, we've got the teachers that can answer. We've got on this course, the teachers can answer. Fellow students can answer. We've got student ambassadors, which is like almost like prefects in the Elroi context, that help answer students' questions. We've got the administrative staff that answer. So this is really a place where we can get answers to students as quick as possible, and that question is disseminated to everyone, which is helpful for many students that have the same question. Every subject has a Q&A. So if there's a question about ALO, for example, or mathematics, you ask it on that subject's Q&A. So everyone gets the opportunity to see your question and the answer. But let's say it's something personal or private. For example, you've got a family member that passed away, or you're ill, you can't write a certain test. Then obviously that doesn't have to be broadcast to everyone. You can go on the messaging system and contact your teacher directly. That's something that's personal or private. The rest, please use the, while we insist that the students use the public platform. Okay, so that is the very important Q&As that I wanted to emphasize. I just want to again re-emphasize the frequency of communication. And on our end, our teachers are encouraged, and they often do, and most of them do it very effectively, remind the students in person. So one of the things, for example, that happens is each of your teachers for your child will make personal contact with the student through that messaging system. So you should have, when you registered, it's a little bit difficult when you register during the December holidays when they're not around, but the teachers get a message saying this student has been added to your course, please make contact with them. And so they make immediate contact and say, hello, I'm your accounting teacher. Do you have any questions? This is how I operate, or whatever. So we really emphasize that personal interaction with the teacher so that there is a bond. We also have for when the student, I'll say a little bit more about the demo sessions, but this is all part of our effort to make contact, to establish communication, to show the student that we are not robots on this end. We are really there to help. The demo sessions. We have subject information sessions in the beginning of the year where the teacher has an opportunity to meet the kids in person, the students, I should rather say, in person, and explain how the subject is going to work. Now, obviously, we can't do continue to do that as new people join, but so those sessions are recorded. But just as an example of what we try to do, we at least have per subject one contact session per term, at least one, on average two. Some subjects have one every week. So these are just some of the ways in which we want to firmly establish communication channels. Now, the one area in which we've been really struggling is the communication with the parents. Now, one of the reasons for that is Elroi started as a matric rewrite institution. So we started 11 years ago with just maths and physics students that wanted to read write. So we built on to that. So we were working with adults, with students that have finished school. So we've always been in communication with the students. And so our whole business developed around that. And then we added in 2018, grade 10 and 11. And it's really taken us this long to realize just how important it is that we involve the parents. And this has been our effort this year. So even though we've not been silent with the parents, we've really struggled to actually make a connection with the parent and establish good, solid communication channels, which is why we've started these parents' meetings, at least just to introduce ourselves. And we will have frequent parent meetings where you have an opportunity to either ask questions, to raise some concerns. We are going to have special opportunities where we will have, for example, an educational psychologist come and explain to you just some things that you can look at for concerning things to look at to know whether your child is mentally healthy, things like that. So we will really make an effort to involve you more in the schooling and equip you to help your child doing online education. Now, one of the ways in which we are going to attempt to better communicate, we tried a parent portal last year. I don't know, we really struggled with that. I don't know why. It's just not an effective, it was just not effective. We are very careful with platforms where parents can, because sometimes people are just upset, and the way in responding in public forums is not conducive to solving problems. So it is really difficult to create a platform where people can just like let's say a WhatsApp group or something like that, because some people just really it's very difficult to manage something. I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about, being part of WhatsApp groups yourselves. So we do want to be careful. There are sensitive things. There's people that are sensitive to certain things. So we don't necessarily want to just have forums like that where people can just, if they're unhappy about something, just blast on everyone. But we do have something called D6. It is a communicator app, web application that is widely used by schools to communicate to parents. It is a very complicated program to initiate in or to start off, and we're really battling to find what is the best way to apply it in our context, but it is going to work very well. I'm convinced of that. So please, I've asked the other parents as well, just give us till the end of the month until we have all our numbers for the year so that we can roll it out at once. Um, and then that would be an app where we can push through important communication that can go to you through that. You should also be able to see the students' results on the app. You should be able to see your outstanding accounts on the app. So I do think it's going to be a very useful tool to get you information at the tip of your fingers, but that doesn't mean we want to put you at arm's length. If you have any concerns, I'm sure you found that we are willing and able to help. Here is one problem though. And sorry, I'm really speaking fast and rushing through a lot of things. So I do hope you get to hear everything and not put to sleep with a monotonous tone. But I do want to explain something. I've done everything in Elroi. I was the teacher, I was the admin, I answered all the phones, starting it from scratch. So no one is able to help you better than I am. I know everything about my business, but I'm not necessarily the best person to help you, because if I were to assist you, I'm obviously taking time from dealing with something else. And if there is someone else that can assist you, it would be better for them to help you. So my bulldog is Didi, Mrs. Moache, Ditsepo Moache. I do not allow her to put calls through to me. And that is simply because I can show you my to-do list. I said to someone, it's as long as KFC's queue on payday. I really have so much to do. So if I take calls, I do not want to be short. I want to be kind, but that obviously robs me of time getting to important things. So please don't take offense if we take a message and you go to my to-do list. You'll always go on my to-do list, and I will get to you, but it is going to take some time. So it is always better to if there is a problem, for example, with finances, that you speak to Tanya, with technical issues that you speak to Johan, or with Ditsepo if there's some concerns. If they can't deal with it, they'll always bring it to me, so that I know if you really need to speak to me, I know it's because you really need to speak to me, and I can prioritize that. So please be also jealous with my time, so that when you do need my time, I am available for you. For whatever the circumstances may be. And I really hope you find that we try to do that in a sincere way. That's communication. I'm delaying now a little bit, or taking a bit long. But those are so far two very important factors for success: is consistent work ethic and communication, both between us, the learner, us and the parents as well, because of the multifacets that we need to deal with. Now, the next thing is the support. Obviously, support is very important. The student is doing self-study, and they are not necessarily equipped to help themselves. So on our end, there is a lot that we are already offering. As I said already, that is one of the things that we want to be known for, is excellent support. And you can Google our reviews. We really do well on that area if you're not already familiar. But that's where Ditsepo, Johan, the teachers, our Elroi ambassadors. Last year we started with Elroi ambassadors. We've got some of their parents here tonight. I'm so excited. I hope they're proud, because it doesn't mean nothing that they've been asked. We identify these three criteria in a student that has a consistent work ethic. It shows in their marks, even though they might not be the academic giants, but you can see they've submitted all of their assignments. They are frequently communicating with the teachers, telling us that there's maybe some concern, something is showing that shouldn't, etc., and that they themselves support their students, their friends, classmates. So those are the three things that we identified in students, and they have been a tremendous help for us. We are so proud of them. Last year they started a magazine for Elroi for our tenure. They started a magazine, had 2 issues. It was stunning, just celebrating the diversity of our students. It was really, it's wonderful. I'll just brag with them all the time. One of the the biggest things they did that was so encouraging is at one point in the year, a big part of the year, we don't need people to be in the office. They can work from home. And so we've got this lovely, beautiful, massive office in Arcadia, and I'm alone here. And I just realized I'm actually lonely. I'm just alone here all the time. And I felt lonely. And slowly but surely, we started picking up from the students as well that they're lonely. They're they're okay. They're interacting with the teachers, but they're at home and they're lonely. And so what the student ambassadors did is they started their a social on Wednesday evenings. I think tonight is the first one for the year. They have a social where they just get online and they chat and they we went on the first time, I remember, and I went on kind of anonymously, and I was just blown away how naturally these kids just, they were so eager for just conversation. And we were going to facilitate something for them, and it was not needed. They were just able to really, in a lovely way, in a beautiful way, just reach out to one another and be there. And up to late at night on Wednesday evenings, every week now, they have been or having this social event. So this is our student ambassadors. We're so proud of them. They've now, from this year, they are taking a role in demo sessions. So we had our first student ambassador actually showing uh, her classmates how to use the portal, and she did stunning. So we're very excited for the students also participating in what we offer. And then another support service is we have the educational psychologist coming on board. His name is Johan Lowe. He's a educational psychologist here in Pretoria. Stunning practice. And he and his colleague, I forget her name now, they will be on board to help us in certain events. So, for example, one student, her marks are not looking well for matric final exams, and something looks odd. But her mom warned me that she seems to be suicidal. Now, what do I do as a principal in a situation like that? I can't just say, well, we're going to try our best. Like there's a child's life at stake here. I can't take that to Sakai and use it as some sort of manipulation for them to help me. So we need competent people to help us in situations like that. And that's where Johan Lowe and his firm will come into play. So that is one example. Students, last year we had students that were caught cheating on the exam, and the parent was furious because now their child is in an emotional state. They are guilty, but they're in an emotional state. Now, how do you, what do we do with a child like that? Do we have support services for a child? Yes, he made a judgment error. That was wrong, but we don't need to leave him to himself to deal with that. So that's one of the examples where we bring in an educational psychologist to help us just counsel that child. We're not always we're good, but we're not good on with everything. Another area is career guidance. Concessions. So concessions is where your child maybe suffers from ADHD. There's anything that might be a hindrance for them to be assessed in a fair way, as a barrier to learning. Then you get awarded a concession. So concession would be, for example, extra time during a test because they are easily distracted, or maybe the child really has a terrible handwriting. Some of your kids need a concession for that, and then they get a concession where they're allowed to type their answers, for example. But all of that is what an educational psychologist will bring on board and help us with to help you and help us to identify how we can better support the students in their mental health. Now, the obvious question is now, how can you help your child? Because in terms of the area in which you can best serve your child, it's in this area of supporting. And the first thing I want to say is just be involved. And this is difficult. We're working with teenagers, and um, I know it is difficult, especially with their studies. They do want to be left alone, but be involved, be encouraging. In a situation, let's say, and we really hope that doesn't happen, but let's say your child is caught uh, cheating, being dishonest during an assessment. What is the best way to respond? Well, if your child is going to be so scared of telling you, that they've actually done this, they're going to continue in dishonesty. And if a child continues in dishonesty, we have to apply the worst effect. Way better is for them to acknowledge I've done wrong. But if they're so scared of the consequences that they've done wrong, because of what's going to happen now there must be consequences, serious consequences. We don't take away that. But to be encouraging and be involved, motivating your child to take responsibility, for example, that type of thing. So we do need parents to work with us. If we are raising an irregularity, I'll say a bit more about irregularities later on. If we're raising an irregularity, we are not accusing you of being a bad parent or your child being not having integrity. No, there is evidence that something is irregular. We have to investigate it to ensure the integrity of our assessments. Help us. By far, the best way to do that is to encourage your child to be honest. Now, that is going to be difficult. There are going to be consequences. You are going to be angry. I get that. But we need to be smart about this so that we can teach our kids. We all have made those judgment errors. I know my wife is a chartered accountant. She was, and the one time in her career as a clerk, she did what is called shadow ticking, and that was the one time she did it, and the one time she got caught. And she is the most integrous person I know. So we've all done that, but there is consequences. How do we deal with that now? That type of thing. Be involved. Be encouraging. Be there for your children when they need you. This is really difficult. It's not easy, and they're going to need encouragement. And I do think parents can offer a lot of help on our side. We don't get to see them in person as often as you do. So that's the one thing. The next thing I really want to ask you, one of the best ways you can support your child is by supporting us. I've already said, we're on your side. We're not trying to suspend any learner. We have no vendetta against anyone. So be with us, help us deal with issues. But one of the big things is be kind to us, please. Be friendly to us. And here is why that is important. You can imagine if a parent of a child that you are interacting with is cruel and mean to you, no matter how much you don't want to project that on a child, we are human. It's going to happen. So the best thing that you can do for your child is to be kind to us. That way, that's the best way you're going to get the best out of us for your children. Now, we don't want to at all project anything on your child, but just imagine that is the best way to deal with us in a kind way. Now, I very seldom have parents. Obviously I deal mostly with parents that are upset. By the time it gets to me, it's something that they're really upset about. So I'm mostly dealing with upset parents. But in most cases, people are very cordial and nice to me. But that is not the case with the teachers and with the staff. Very often, parents especially are very rude to the staff. And I will address such people in person. I directly address those people, um, and we deal with that. But I do want to ask you, please be kind to them. They are really stunning people that love your kids as much as any stranger could. So please show them the respect that they deserve. And I'm definitely not going to stand for anyone bullying or being unkind to any of my staff members. You are absolutely more than welcome to keep us accountable, to be firm in what your expectations are, but we can still do that kindly and with respect. That is just some of the ways that you can really support your child and us in our efforts to help your child do the best they can over the next few years. Then just the last thing, I've already mentioned much about it, is just the mental well-being of your child. Again, we are very limited in what we know about your child. We interact, but even those email interactions. Sorry, let me just, before I get to that, in terms of communication, I just neglected to mention this. Very often, the parents have access to the online portal, and the students' online portal, which is you're more than welcome to, and they communicate with the teachers. But they communicate as if they are the child asking a question. Now, the reason why you're more than welcome to do that, but do not pretend to be the child. Rather just state this is, let's say, Jan's mom or whatever. Just because when adults talk to each other, they can talk straight and they can yeah, even though they're kind, it's straight talk. But you don't expect the child to speak to you like that. So it often appears that children are rude um, in the way that they're addressing an adult, at least a teacher. Now, in general, that very seldom happens, but it has happened. So just to avoid any form of contentious situations that might arise, just indicate your name. If you are speaking on behalf of a child on a message, just say, "This is his mom," and the teacher will understand if the tone seems a bit more, uh, let's say, informal, the way that adults would speak to one another. Okay, and then we are going to expect and teach the students to deal with in a roughly formal but in a respectful way to the teachers when they communicate. We won't allow students to be rude and disrespectful to their teachers or any adults for that matter. Now, then just another way you can help your children is with the mental well-being. I am warning you now, if this is your first time or your child's first time doing online studies, the children do get lonely. So do allow them, encourage them to interact with friends outside of uh, the studies. Just make sure that they are not just locked up in the room, that you do actually interact with them. And if you do notice that there are concerns for your child's mental well-being, let us know. As I said, we've got the educational psychologist, and we'll definitely make his services available. So help us pick up on these things. And another thing is really high expectations from parents. Now, I believe, and we follow this, that a child, any person, rises to the level of expectation. If you're going to have a low expectation, a low bar to jump over, is not going to be a big effort made. So you definitely have high and reasonable expectations for your children, but please make sure that they are indeed reasonable. A lot of the times, for example, parents would insist on their children doing mathematics, and it's really a difficult subject, and they really struggle, and they really don't want to disappoint their parents, but it puts such a pressure on them because the parent insists on doing mathematics because their child needs to become a doctor, or they want all the doors open for them. But let me just tell you, if you fail mathematics, you don't go to university at all, because you can't fail and get a bachelor's pass. If you fail one subject, you don't get a bachelor's pass. At least if you have math literacy, yes, you might not be able to go study medicine or engineering, but at least you have a bachelor's pass. There's many other careers you can pursue with a degree, and you can still have the option of adding maths after matric. But then for that schooling career, because of the insistence of doing maths and getting 50% for maths so that you can go to university, things like that. So again, interact with us so that we can understand what is the best situation for your child. You can have high expectations, but let's not break their spirits as they attempt to do well. Okay, I've got a few more things that I do just need to get to. I'm speaking longer than the first time. I think I've got extra things to say, but I just wanted to mention the importance of a demo session. I've spoken now about just who we are, factors for success, and just a few really important things, and I'll mention those things briefly. One is the importance of a demo session. A demo session is just an opportunity where one of the teachers, one of the staff, literally goes and shows the student how to use the portal. It is what we found, and I explained this in the first session as well, first time we met with parents, that I'm a chess player. So in chess, when you start a chess game, you usually start with a pawn in front of the king. Now, whenever you make a move in chess, if a move can accomplish more than one thing, it's usually a good move. So the reason why that's a good move is not only does it occupy some space in the center of the chessboard, it also opens up some lines for the other pieces that needs to get into the game. It opens up for them to get into the game. Now, that is just a good strategy for starting something. Is what simple thing can I do that can give me that can enable me to do most other things? And for Elroi, that's a demo session. It's such a simple, probably a 45-minute session where someone just shows you how to use the portal, but you're so well equipped after you'd had that session. You had an interaction with us. You got to see where main things are. The most important things are emphasized. You have some experience using the portal, and On our side, we ask some personal questions about that the student. Now, obviously, we don't pry, but for example, is there anything that we should know about your personal situation? Do you have your own computer? Do you have what's that question we ask? Oh, do you have any medical conditions that we should know about? Like sometimes we've had students that had autism and we didn't know. Now, obviously, we need to know that these things affect their studies. It affects their writing. We had one student that had a brain injury, and we didn't know. So we kept complaining about we can't read his writing, but the teachers didn't know that he had this brain injury. So things like that is things that we get to pick up during a demo session because we ask the questions. Now, that's the importance of a demo session. I've already and hopefully emphasized it enough, spoken about the importance of communication. I can't overemphasize that. And then the other important thing is the importance of assessments. As I've explained, we're doing a qualification. These assessments count towards a qualification. They're not a diagnostic tool to see what your child struggles with. Yes, that we do want to use that as such, but they're primarily to show that the student has accomplished certain things in order to be awarded whatever, whether it's a grade 10 report or grade 11 or eventually the national senior certificate. Now, because of that importance, there's a few things that you need to understand. We literally have students failing, and I'm dealing with that. Most of my time now spent is with students that fail their previous grades because they didn't submit assessments. Like they get 28 instead of 30. If you get 30% you're only allowed to get one subject less than 30. So now you have two subjects that's less than 30, but the one is 28. If you literally submitted one assignment extra that you didn't submit, you would have passed. So please, I beg you, please take note that your children are submitting all their assignments. We honor the students that submit all their assignments, and I think we call it a certificate of excellence. I think we awarded 6 or 7 last year of the 300 students that we have. It's so rare that people submit everything. So please encourage your students. Now, obviously, certain things happen, like you might be absent, and there's way in which we deal with that so that the student is not disadvantaged. But there's no reason why the student should not be submitting everything that's not a test and an exam. Now, one of the things that's very important is the oral and the PAT. A PAT is done in tourism and CAT. If you don't have an oral mark, or if you haven't submitted a PAT mark, you fail your grade. It's that important. So, for example, these like 3 orals in first additional language. If you didn't submit any of those 3 orals, it doesn't matter how well you do in your grade, you fail because you have a no result. So these things are really important. They are requirements for the qualification. And no matter how much we emphasize this to the students, every single year we have students that they even fail matric simply because I have a girl that failed her whole matric simply because she didn't submit a tourism PAT. The teacher sent at least 8 messages. We phoned the parent. We tried everything. And yeah, the student just didn't submit that PAT. She failed matric. So it's completely unnecessary. And I'm overemphasizing, but I don't think I can on this. The other thing is that, of course, irregularities. We have a committee called the Center Assessment and Irregularity Committee. When teachers mark, if while they're marking something looks suspicious, for example, 2 students are submitting work that are eerily similar, or the student is submitting work and it's word for word the memorandum, or there could be maybe a few other things, but those are the main ones. We know we've been dealing with this for so long. That's called an irregularity. That's an allegation of irregularity. So in other words, we are alleging that something irregular occurred. It's not immediately an allegation that the child was dishonest, but we have to investigate that. Why? Because these assessments are taken to Sakai. Sakai, although they don't look at everything, they do take samples. And if they pick up on an irregularity that we didn't pick up on, there is question about the integrity, Elroi's integrity. Did we allow them to copy from each other? Did we give them a memorandum? They then need to investigate us. So before they investigate us, we investigate the situation, and we need to have a report that says, okay, this is what happened. That's why we always give the student an opportunity to explain what happened. In most cases, they are as innocent as tomorrow the whole day. They've never done anything wrong in their life. The parents can't believe that we would accuse their little angel. But we are yet to find students to be innocent. Sometimes it does happen that someone copied from them, but someone definitely copied. And again, we're asking you to help us just resolve these things. But they are important. Please work with us to deal with them. What happens in a situation like that with an irregularity is the student gets a warning letter. They get 0 for the task. This is if they confess. If they persist in being dishonest, there's serious consequences. But they get 0 for the task. They get a warning letter. After that, if that ever happens again, they get a second and a final warning letter. And after a third one, they get suspended from Elroi. We don't take them back as a student, and we report that to Sakai. Now, if Sakai keeps that on record, if in whatever different context they then go to someone else and then someone else reports the same thing, Sakai can suspend the student up to 5 years from the matric final exam. So that's just why this is important. Let me then quickly go to proctoring arrangements. Many of you are existing clients, but for those that are new, our exams are invigilated. And one way in which the invigilation can happen is with online invigilation. With online invigilation, basically what happens is the student streams their screen and their camera. So for the camera, they would write roughly in a situation like this, where we can see their hands and we can see their body. It's not necessary to see their eyes, because if they are using something like a phone or whatever, we can see that. They also stream their screen, and that way we can see if they are opening any websites. And it has happened that students, while they are being proctored, open Google and Google Translate and a phrase in Afrikaans. We do find that, and then it's an irregularity. We deal with that. Okay. So let me then just get to the last thing. That's the proctoring. Proctoring is something we try and do during the demonstration session. We try to do a proctoring practice, and then to see if the student has everything that's necessary. Sorry, I see there's a few questions here now. I'll answer those questions in just a minute. Then just the last thing quickly for the matrics. There are some of you that are in matric. So in matric, there is quite a strict admin protocol for the next few months. And that is because they are going to write a matric final exam. And that final exam is written at a Sakai exam venue. So it's the only exam during their school career with Elroi that they have to write at a venue. There is more than 100 venues across the country. You can find those venues on our website. Most of you would have already selected one if you registered for matric. So they're most conveniently located in most places, but obviously there's some places where you might have to travel. But in order for that process to register them and prepare them for that final exam, there's some admin. So basically what's going to happen is by April, they will be registered for that exam with Sakai. They will get a registration letter to confirm that they are registered there. They'll get a pre-registration form that they need to sign that all the information is correct. They'll then have later on an opportunity to choose the exam venue. So we've already chosen, but there's another opportunity to change that, or to sometimes, for example, an exam venue is just not available again. That is rare, but it does happen. But nonetheless, the exam venue is then selected in May and June. June, from about June usually. No, I lie, July. And then the final, they get an entry schedule, which shows the dates they're going to write for every subject, the venue they're going to write, the contact details for that venue. And so that's called the entry schedule. And that is the final check to make sure that everything is correct. So the reason why I'm just telling you is that some of those things might require your signature. So please make sure that you are getting frequent communication from your matric child about things that need to be signed. If they are already older than 18, then they can sign on your behalf. They don't need a parent signature, but it doesn't mean you can't just help them make sure that they've dealt with all the admin. So we'll try and communicate that as well frequently with the parents that have matric students. Okay, guys, I'm really sorry. I really spoke at 300 words a minute to try and just get to everything. I hope it was informative. I do want to give you a chance to ask some questions. So let me just answer these that's already been asked. We have a question about what's the matric pass rate. I said earlier, we're just finalizing some marks with Sakai. We've got some students that their marks are not showing. They're showing as 999s, which suggests that the students were absent. And so we don't have final results yet. So when we have that, we'll communicate that. So I can't tell you that yet. One difference with Elroi as well is we have primarily in our matric year, we only have, I think we had less than 20 full-time matrics last year, which was the most of our matric students were full-time students. We have more than 40 this year. So last year was a small group, but we mostly have matric rewriters. So when you have a matric rewriter, we don't really talk about pass rates because the matric rewriter can't pass his matric. He's doing just 1, 2, or 3 subjects. So, but we'll communicate that. Where can I locate all the subject demo sessions? Okay, so let me just show you on the portal. Okay, so on your students portal under in progress, you will have a number of subjects that's named like this, like grade 10, grade 11. Let's go to mathematics, for example. So you can go to the subjects mathematics course. I'm not sure if the mathematics one would be showing yet. I'm going to try. It should be. But on the mathematics course, for example, so you go to the subject. Under every subject, there's online support. Now, on this is the link where any contact session will be on this link. So every subject has this link. So for example, in the beginning of the year, we have a subject explanation session. At the end and beginning of next term, we will have a memo discussion session. So where the memo for the previous term's tests would be worked through, and that will all happen here. So when you click on that, any session that has been done on this subject, as you can see, all of the contact sessions for this subject has been recorded here, and there is the discussion session. So you can just, if you go on there, anything that's been done. So for example, last year's memo discussion for prelims. So this is stunning. So when your child is preparing for prelim, sorry, not prelims, mid-year exams here. If your child is preparing for mid-year exam, they can go and do a past paper. So let me quickly show you on the portal here at the bottom. Right at the bottom is past paper. They can open the past paper. There's Elroi's 2023 past papers, and here's all the past papers for last year. So you can do the mid-year exam, for example. There's the question paper, the mid-year exam paper 1. They can go do this mid-year exam, and then after they've done it, they can come back to and watch the video where the teacher then explains the questions and answers after you've now practiced it. Okay, but yeah. So sorry, just to answer your immediate question, there's the subject explanation session. In some cases, something is wrong, so that after it's been recorded, it's not showing here. In which case, the teacher would have sent it under announcements. So the teacher would have sent an extra announcement with the link to just go and watch it. As you can see, it's on Google Drive. Okay, you can't see it, but it's on Google Drive. Yes. So the question is, can a child struggling with maths change to math literacy in the beginning of the year? So I'm a math teacher. My recommendation is that if a child is struggling with maths, stick to maths as long as possible, as long as the child's mental capacity can do that. They can do it even though they're not doing well, as long as they're passing. Stick with math as long as possible, preferably until the end of grade 11, and then change in grade 12. And the main reason for that is we find that students that do maths longer do extremely well in maths literacy because they know they need to work hard. Math literacy, you don't need to work that hard. So what happens? They become lazy. They don't work hard, and they tend to not do as well. So my advice, let the child go as far as possible in their school career, even if they're not doing well. If they're at least passing, that's fine. But if you want to change to math literacy, the question is yes, they can change to math literacy in the middle of the year, but not in grade 12. So if you want to change, you need to change before you get to grade 12. Okay, that is all the questions, everything I wanted to say. So I do want to thank you for being patient with me and sticking with me for this time. But I do want to give you an opportunity to ask some questions and put on your mic and ask some questions. But if you want to go, I'm sure it's dinner time for most of you, then you're more than welcome. Thank you very much from my side for being here, and I hope you find that we live up to our promises. Thank you. You're welcome. The rest of you are welcome to stay behind and ask as many questions. I'm available until you're satisfied. I appreciate the applause. Thank you. Is daar enige vrae? Jy is welkom in Afrikaans te vra as jy Afrikaans ouer is. Or any questions. I can help in Afrikaans and English, but that's as far as I can help. Hi, Kim.
Hi, Peter. How are you?
I'm well. It's lovely to speak to you, actually. I don't think we've ever spoken.
No, I don't think so. Thank you. You too.
We've chatted a lot.
Yeah, we did chat a lot. I don't have a lot of questions. Just things that we came about last year, obviously, with exams and that I want to ask you. For instance, her LO exam. I see there's different books that you use. So I was wondering, because the one question she had in LO was not in her book.
Yeah.
So my main concern about it is, although you alter or you take the question out, they still spend 5-10 minutes looking at that question and wasting time in their test and exam, then going to the next question.
Yeah. Thank you, Kim. That's a good question. So first off, we don't always have our teachers be the examiners. So because assessments are such an integral part of this qualification, we develop assessments. We have a whole system of developing assessments, and those people are instructed not to use textbooks to set assessments. They have to use the CAPS curriculum. Now, the CAPS curriculum doesn't give content. Now, that does mean that sometimes whatever resource they are using to set an assessment is not necessarily in the child's book. Now, in general, that should be very rare, and I hope that has been the case though. But for that is also going to happen in the final exam in matric. Is that a question is asked that's really not in your book, and even though it's rare, an exam is set up with the intention that a certain proportion of the work is knowledge that the student has gained because they have done above and beyond what would be expected. So that is just why it would be very unlikely to get 100% in a final exam for any subject, because there are some questions. So it should be rare, and in general, and so what we need to do for students in general is to teach them exam technique, so that if you don't know an answer, move on. Don't waste your time where you could have answered other things on that question. Let there then be something that you don't know, And well, in the future, you're going to find it out. And next time you get that question, you'll answer it correct. But it is a valid concern, and it should be rare. So if you do pick up on it more often, please tell us so that we can inquire from the examiners, why is it that they're actually asking things. Now, in general, all of our teachers go through exams before they go out. Allo would have been a problem because that's me, and I don't get to all of that. So that's why this year there's someone is allocated specifically for the formal program to make sure that doesn't happen.
Okay, because I noticed it did happen in the LO, but it also happened in the maths paper as well, where they give a wrong, for instance, if it's a triangle, they give the wrong angle. So we've picked up that in maths besides LO as well. Or they mistakenly put the grade 11 question in a grade 10's paper. And obviously, well, I know my daughter will pick it up quickly because she knows exactly what she studies and that. So if she sees something that's not in her textbook, then she starts to worry because she's got other questions to answer. So that also happened, unfortunately, in the maths, I think, exam or test. I can't remember.
Yeah, and just for the other parents' sake, like we really do appreciate that you tell us about that, and again, so we develop about 430 assessments in the year. So it's really a massive program. So it does happen. It should be rare. If it is frequent in a specific subject, then obviously there's a problem because when an assessment is developed, you develop it with an examiner. It gets moderated. We now have a proofreader. We have a final formatter and the teacher that goes through that task, and still things like that gets through. Now, again, as I say, I hope it's rare, but if it happens, it's an irregularity. Just like a dishonesty irregularity, this is a different kind of irregularity. It has to be investigated, and any irregularity has two components to it. It has a corrective measure. In other words, some irregularities is about ensuring that marks are fair, valid, and reliable. So your corrective measure is to correct whatever was unfair. So for example, take the question out or give the students the marks, things like that. The next is sanctions. Sanctions is, okay, who needs to be corrected? Like, in other words, if it's a student that cheated, then obviously there's consequences. But if there is consistently these type of errors, we need to replace the examiner and moderator or whatever. We need to pick up on that. So in general, the best response is to just report it to us. It always get investigated to make sure that the student is not disadvantaged, but also to make sure that it doesn't happen in the future. So yeah, that's the best advice I can give. And yeah, you shouldn't stand for it. It's not acceptable. So you're more than welcome to make an issue out of it.
Okay, thank you. Just a question, when they reach matric, if they want to do better in one subject, or if they do fail, which I doubt that, but if they want to better one subject, can they rewrite just that one subject?
Yeah.
And then does that get added to the report with the other subjects?
Yeah, so that's exactly so. That, as I mentioned earlier, that's what we primarily do and specialize in at Elroi, or how we started. And so how it works is you just literally redo the year for that specific subject. The end of the year, you get that subject on a separate certificate, and you just request a combination if it's necessary for a combination. The only
Oh, I
time
see.
the only time you would request a combination is, let's say the student didn't pass with a bachelor's degree, and so their certificate doesn't allow them access to the university. So they need to repeat maybe one or two subjects so that they can pass with bachelor's. That's when you ask for a combination.
Combination.
If you already have a bachelor's, you already have the best certificate, but you just need additional marks. Then
Yes.
let's say, for example, for maths, you can get to university, but you need 80% because you want to do medicine. And so now you just have another certificate with 80 for maths. It doesn't need to be on the same certificate.
Okay, that makes sense. And then, sorry, I don't want to take up everyone's time. I just want to make sure with load shedding, because we're in the process, obviously, of moving. If the load shedding is within the time period where they write a test, what do you do? Do they have to have airtime on another device, or
Mm.
how? What is the procedure for that? Sorry.
Yeah, that's actually an excellent question. I wish that question was here when everyone, because that's really something everyone deals with. We are not allowed to use load shedding as a so if a student misses an assessment, um, they can get a valid reason excuse, and this is only for tests and exams. Any other task, if you miss the due date, you can still submit it on another date. But for tests and exams are written on a specific date at a specific time. So if you miss that assessment, you can only be you can you have to have a valid reason excuse, otherwise you get zero. Now, a valid reason excuse is when whatever has caused you to miss was outside of your was unforeseen and uncontrollable. So sorry, Kim, I'm taking a long route to answer your
No,
question,
it's fine.
but that's just a general thing. So um, load shedding in general is not unforeseen. It's maybe uncontrollable, but it's not unforeseen. So we're not allowed to give it for scheduled load shedding a valid reason excuse. So the expectation on all distance education providers with Sakai is that students make an alternative arrangement because they know it's coming. So either then back up batteries or go to an area where there is electricity. But if you can prove to us, and for example, Kim, I remember you guys had that incident last year with the flooding, I think, where
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
where there's nothing you can do. Like there's really nothing you can do. Then we do award that. So we just need to be able to prove to Sakai that it was unforeseen and uncontrollable. So we might believe you, but we need to prove that to our assessment body. So if if it is possible, you'll just need to somehow prove it to us. So, for example, if a child is sick, a doctor's note is sufficient proof. If there's death in the family, then a sick note is sufficient proof. If there was unforeseen outages, then there's certain documentation that you can provide to show that okay, this wasn't scheduled, but here's the proof that the electricity was off.
Okay. No,
So
that makes sense. Thanks very much. I appreciate the feedback.
thanks, Kim. You're always so polite. You have lots of questions, but it's always good and helpful questions. So
Thank you.
one of the parents that always put her name at the end of the message. I appreciate that. Renee, your hand is up.
Hi, Peter. How are you?
Well, how are you?
Fine, fine, thanks. I just wanted to ask something. I noticed that when the kids do ask questions on the student portal, many times there's a bit of a delay, and I do appreciate that you guys are really busy. So there's lots of things that come through. How long about should they wait for an answer? And
Mm,
if you've most probably missed it, do they
yeah,
have to just repeat the question, or do we just hang on until you pick up
yeah.
that that question hasn't been answered?
No, that's an excellent question. So, the first part of that is I just want to say our agreement and expectation with the staff members, whether it's teachers or the support staff, is to answer within a day. Okay, so to give them enough time, some of the teachers, for example, are not doing this full time. So there might be teachers at a school, for example, accounting, we have 4 kids. I can't employ someone full time for 4 kids. So, so just give them a day. So that is your expectation. Please give them a day, uh, uh, an academic day or a business day. A child can't write a message on Friday afternoon and expect it over the weekend. They'll get an answer on Monday. Although most teachers are active over the weekend, so they would get an answer in most cases. But you are right; it should be within a day. This is typically one of the things that I really ask that you bring to my attention. I wouldn't know if there's a question on a Q&A for life sciences not getting answered. I wouldn't know that unless someone tells me, listen, we're not getting answers here. And if anyone has been here for more than with Elroi for more than 2 years, you would know certain staff are not with us anymore because they get fired. This is what we offer the parents and the students is support. So please bring it to our attention. but also not just once or maybe even twice if it happens. It could be that the message was just missed. That is unfortunate. So in most cases, we just ask, let the student just bump up the question again, just ask the question, can someone please respond to this? But if that's really a pattern, that's unacceptable, I want to know about it, I will deal with it. And worst case scenario, that teacher will be replaced. So at this point, we have an excellent team, and it should be very rare as well.
No, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Renee. Okay, and then Michelle. Michelle, are you ready to be Les mom?
Hi, Peter. Yes, I am.
Yes. Okay. Hi, how are you?
I'm good, and yourself?
I'm good, thank you.
Yes, I wanted to piggyback on what Kim was talking about with the exams as well.
Okay.
That when they get to exams, they probably find different work than what they've been taught in class.
Mm.
Yeah, or they're taught in CAPS and then the exams are written in IEB. Yeah.
At all.
Yeah, most of the time they find questions that they haven't been taught or they don't know about.
Yeah.
So now it causes a lot of panic for the kids when they're writing exams. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Michelle, again, those things must just be reported to us. That should be extremely rare. I wish I can show you. I should actually show you the let me do that, because I also don't just take such accusations as true. Just because a child tells me the work has been in the book and they didn't do it from Rita Bile, I will believe her. So so I'm not taking what you're saying lightly. But a child saying that and for example Dante as well, if she says it wasn't in there, I know it wasn't in there. But we get enough such accusations from the kids to know that to know that sometimes that's just a convenient excuse. But I just do want to show you here something just to instill confidence. There you go. So this is just the system that we use for developing assessments. It's going to take a while to load. But basically what happens, the task is set. It is set by competent assessors. They use the CAPS curriculum. And let me take something, for example, this one. Here you can see this task was started in on the 10th of September last year. It's the first task for this year, for CAT grade 10. But I just want to show you the each entry here has been communication between the examiner who started the assessment, the moderator who evaluated it. Then there is eventually quality assurance, where someone goes through, make sure that all of these things have been done. And then a proofreader that proofreads that document to make sure spelling, then evaluated to make sure that all the pictures are showing clearly, and then finally a teacher that verifies that this task has gone through all the evidence. So, and this one is short. This one is short. Most of these I can show you has. I can look at versions. Versions is how many times it's gone back and forth. So, for example, this one 39 times that it's been. So it's an incredible process, and our teacher Ingrid Trussler manages this process. She's a machine. I mean, that woman can run America. And so, yeah, I just want to give you confidence that that shouldn't happen. I wouldn't take it lightly coming from students. But then there's something else is the problem. Do they have the correct textbook? I know Retabile, I think, has a tutor, isn't it?
Yes.
I don't want to accuse the tutor at all. They're stunning tutors, but we need to make sure that they have the correct material, the correct things are being addressed. But if, again, and I'm repeating myself, but if it is true, then it's an irregularity, and we must find where it's a disadvantage to the learner. We must find where that problem comes in, and we must solve it. Yeah. And here you can see, here's our assessments. A lot, as you can see, very big
Okay.
development process. Okay.
Thank you so much.
And is it Manuel Fernandez? I see your hand is up.
Okay, yes, Peter, can you hear me?
Yes. Is it Manuel?
Yes, Manuel, you right, yeah. My question is also with the exams. What I've noticed, or what happened is, the student would be kicked out, and from our side, we don't understand why it happens. I would do an internet speed test, and I would see 10 megs upload or download, and so the internet is okay, and then we would log it in again. So what I was thinking, could it be the fact that all the screens is showing to the student's PC? I'm not sure. What do we do? Because it adds stress on the student while the student is busy with the exams.
Yeah. Thanks, Manuel. Are you Danielle's father?
Yes, it happened a few times. So eventually we just connected the PC straight to the router. But I'm not sure if how do I know the problem's on my side, or is it the internet issue?
You know what we can try in the future, because yeah, that won't be ideal for student doing proctoring. We can start a breakout session where only, in this case, let's say Danielle is in that breakout session, where only her screen is streaming. This is and this is also rare. It does happen in some cases, and in most cases that I know of where it's happened, it's been the internet, the bandwidth, or the internet speed on the student side. I don't know if anyone else that's maybe has done proctoring that's had the same issue, but it's very seldom as well. But if it could be that there's maybe too much a demand on the bandwidth, we can create a proctoring session just for her, or a breakout room just for her, so that only her screen and camera is shared. I think we can try something like that in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So just let us know if we should try and organize that. It's an extra invigilator.
Okay, we'll let her know.
Okay. Good. I've got all the amazing students' parents here tonight. Tanay did so well, Marinda. Joh, I'm so proud of her. Sy het so goed gedoen.
Baie dankie. Hallo, hoe gaan dit?
Dit gaan baie goed, dankie. Gaan met jou?
Ook goed, dankie. Ek sit nou eet my Burger King maak is. Ek is nee, baie dankie. Ek dink ook sy het regtig baie goed gedoen. Van iemand wat in 'n skool was wat gekom het op Elroi heen. Ek moet sê, ek's baie trots op hom.
Nee, jy moet wees. Nee, dankie. Jy het nie enige vrae nie van jou kant af.
Nee, ek het nie enige. Ek's tevrede.
Okay. Dankie. Well, any other questions? Again, if you have a personal question you don't want to ask in front of others, I'll stay behind and until no one's left. But thank you again for being here and being stunning parents. We've got incredible parents, and we do need to give you the credit for the type of students that we get. They didn't fall out of a box the way they are. They have that that integrity and that discipline that I can definitely see in many of the parents that's here tonight, and your children. That's a result of a home where they've been taught how to take responsibility and work hard. So thank you that we get to pick the fruits of that. Excellent. Thank you, everybody. Have a lovely evening.
Dankie vir julle harde werk ook van julle kant af.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks Michelle. Dankie julle. Thanks. Same. Bye Sandra. Oh yeah, Mackenzie's mom, of course. Okay,
So groet ons dan maar net.
ja wat? Of as jy 'n persoonlike vraag het of iets
Nee,
of
ek's al
direk
goed.
is jy goed? Okay. Dankie Marinda, goed gaan hoor.
Okay, groete